got the drainage in the back part of the green back here. But anyway, building a golf course is a major ordeal. A lot of work going on everywhere. This is the 15th hole at Darmor. This is the Redan hole. It's the reverse Redan. So, very deep bunkers on the right hand side. And mighty hole, 226 yards from the back. So this is the 14th green. It's been cored out. And I'm shooting this right now because we're going to start putting the drainage in tomorrow and the gravel that goes on top of the drainage. So you can see it's cored out 16 inches. And I just wanted to show that today so that when you see the drainage go in, I want everybody to know when this is over with what goes into golf course construction. Anyway, 14th green, the Cape hole, and Darmor Club.
Be the right club. Be the right club today. Yes!
Welcome to Season 2, Episode 7 of the Be the Right Club Today podcast. Hal, how are you doing?
I'm good, Jamie.
Good.
Just looking forward to golf.
Looking forward to the golf. And big topic this week. At the time of recording, we're kind of halfway through the match play tournament. What's your thoughts with the match play as a format going forward, Hal?
I love match play, and I think it's a lost art, if you will. I understand at the tour level, from a sponsorship level, you know, they may lose some of the best players the first day, and that hurts the viewership. So from that level, I understand it. But at the club level, I think everybody would enjoy match play a lot better. It's, you know, one hole, you're not out of it. It keeps the excitement level high.
Yep.
And I wish I could play more match play.
Yeah. Match play, it's more man v man, right? Whereas stroke play is always you v the course. There is other people there you got to think about in a stroke play situation, but match play is a little bit more like something like tennis. You're playing against a guy.
Well, I think you end up playing a lot more conservative if you play medal play all the time because you don't want to make a big number.
Yep. And
when you're playing match play, you know, foot's on the accelerator a lot more.
Yeah.
And that's exciting golf when it's like that. Plus, if you make a mistake, so what? Move on to the next hole. It's only one hole. It's not 5 shots or something.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously you've had a lot of experience playing Ryder Cups and a President's Cup on the match play format. How much more did you enjoy that style versus when you were playing the week in, week out?
Well, I always thought match play was fun because you were jockeying for position. You know, you're playing off of what the other guy did. You're playing the golf course differently, you know. It was a lot of fun. I played a lot of match play events whenever I was an amateur. And I felt like it kept me more aggressive.
Yep.
Medal play, if you do that for your whole life, you're going to end up being pretty conservative in the end because you don't want to make a big number. You know, you're trying to hold. You get the ball in the hole as least number of shots.
Yeah.
You don't take chances. Match play, you take a few chances.
Get a little more aggressive.
Yeah, you'll see that this weekend, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about this, and they're still in the match play, but you'll see it as the week goes on. Guys taking chances.
Yeah. Austin Country Club's got a lot of great holes for that short drivable one down by the water.
Yeah.
That's a really cool hole for match play.
Yeah, it's a great hole for match play.
Yeah, it's a shame. I don't know what's going to happen with that event in the future. Sounds like, well, Austin definitely not hosting it going forwards, but it'd be a shame if the tour lost its one and only match play event.
Well, again, it is a shame, but I understand sponsors want the best players there on the weekend and medal play.
Yeah.
That's why the tour's doing what they're doing. They're going to this shorter field, no cut,
Yep.
and that way the best players are there all weekend, all week long. And you know, I like cuts. I like match play. I like, let the chips fall where they may.
Yep. It's always exciting. So, a couple of little things here. Again, if you watched on the YouTube, you would have seen the little clips of the Darmor that we took last week. So, stay tuned on that. Also, if you missed last week, just check out the start of episode 6 on the YouTube channel. You'll see some clips of the Darmor taking shape. Hal, it's getting there.
Yeah, it is taking shape. I'm enjoying. You're talking about Darmor?
Yep, Darmor. Yep.
Yeah, it's everybody's baby's the prettiest, but this is turning out fantastic.
Yeah.
So, but it should. We're spending lots of time out there.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm there every 5 weeks or something. I'm there every day.
Yep.
And so no dirt's getting moved that I'm not actually seeing. My eyes aren't on it.
Exactly. Making sure it's getting moved to the right place.
Hopefully.
Yeah, so as I say, check on the YouTube channel to check out those clips. And then for today's episode, we've got a great guest lined up, Trevor Immelman, Masters champ, 11 worldwide wins on the tours. What are you most looking forward to chatting to Trevor about?
Well, a lot of things. He's in the booth in the Butler cabin this year for the first time. So we'll talk about that. And then, the ball change. I think he's been noticing on Twitter that he's gotten a lot of action on that. So I'm sure he'll have something to say about that.
Yep. It's going to be a really interesting discussion. And, we'll see you right after the break. Join us for our interview with Trevor. This episode is brought to you by Holderness and Bourne. Let's talk about their polo shirts for a second. The fit and fabrics are one of my favourites out there, but Holderness and Bourne really changed the game with the collar on their shirts. You can really spot a Holderness and Bourne collar. It has premium interfacing, sewn-in collar stays, and an English cut that is modern but not too aggressive. Ultimately, what does that all mean? It means you look more polished and more put together. A great collar can frame your face and give you great posture. A great collar also stays sharp, especially in the heat of the summer as you sweat, or maybe you're sweating over those nervy 6-footers. Check them out at hbgolf.com and use code HSutton15 for 15% off your next order. Okay, everybody, for episode 7, we thought we'd bring you all a big treat this week. We have a Masters champion and a familiar voice and face that you'll see a lot going forward on CBS. We have Trevor Immelman joining us. Trevor, how are you?
I'm doing very well, thanks, Jamie. It's great to join you guys, you and Hal. It's awesome. I've listened to the podcast before, so glad to be on it finally.
That's great. Well, thank you,
Trevor,
for joining us. Yeah, go ahead, Hal.
Well, we love your broadcasting. What's it been like? Is it fun?
Yeah, thanks so much. It really has been great, Hal. I got to say, I really do enjoy it. It's been quite helpful to me, and I feel quite fortunate that I feel like I've had a soft place to land after playing, for 2 decades, basically professionally. I was a little concerned what I would do with my time once I stopped playing, but I feel really fortunate that I've had the ability to, get into something else that I really do enjoy, and have a great time with it. So I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I love the team aspect of working with a whole bunch of people, trying to put a good product out on TV that people can enjoy. So yeah, it's been an amazing experience for me so far. I hope that I'm able to do it for a long time to come.
Well, when I did a little bit of it, and I was a little bit pushed to get a little bit controversial on what I said, and I just didn't enjoy that part of it. I'm not going to go into details, but they wanted the truth, and it depends on what truth you're talking about. As a golfer, and I'm sure you're understanding what I'm saying. Golf is difficult, and even professionals make mistakes, and and they're not proud of them. And guess what? The whole world just got to see that mistake, and it's pretty obvious most of the time. So I don't know why I had a bit of cover up in me, or I made an excuse for it, or I gave the other side of it, of what the player was feeling, instead of just making him look bad because I had to walk in the locker room later. What's your thoughts on all that?
Yeah, look, those are all very valid points, and that's exactly the fine line that you need to walk as a broadcaster. If you've played out there long enough, you know exactly how difficult it is, like you just touched on. But at the end of the day, if you're going to be in that role on TV, your main goal for the show, for the broadcast, the thing that you need to be concerned about the most is making sure that it's entertaining for the viewer at home. So how can you find a way to scratch that itch and make sure that it makes people lean into the TV and want to watch, but also portray, how difficult that shot was. Players of every level hit bad shots. They can still fight back. They can still bounce back and chip in from over there or what have you. And so that is the fine line that you're constantly walking. And I found the best thing for me is, look, you got to be honest at all times. If it's a bad shot, I know it's a bad shot. You know it's a bad shot watching at home. The player who's just hit it knows it's a terrible shot. He's probably reacting and showing you that he's disgusted or angry with it. And you just find a way to move through that and explain what happened and what they're going to be facing next. So for me, the things that are always rambling around in my head during a broadcast are hows and whys. Okay, how is the player doing this? Why is he doing this? That's what I'm trying to explain to the viewers at home. And then here's what we could look for down the line. He's got 2 par 5s in the next 5 holes. He's been driving it really well. So maybe we'll see an eagle and a birdie. Maybe he'll, he's been missing tee shots to the left and there's out of bounds on the next tee shot that he's got to face. Let's keep an eye on that. How's he going to adjust for things like that? So that's sort of the process that my mind is running in, to just try and involve the viewer, entertain the viewer, and explain to them what's going on out there. And look, for me, I sort of visited quite a large spectrum of the professional game while I was playing. I reached a high level by winning the Masters and by playing in majors for many years and playing President's Cups and stuff like that. But I also felt the opposite side of playing horrendous golf and really struggling to keep my card, eventually losing my card on the PGA Tour. So I feel like I have a broad understanding of just how difficult it is and what these players at every level or every part of their career are experiencing. And so really, I'm just trying to find the right words to explain that to the viewer, to try and give them a more rounded outlook of what's going on out there.
Always challenging. I don't have to tell you how challenging it is because it's happening fast. What most people don't understand is there's a lot going on in your ear. And, somebody's talking to you about where they're fixing to go next and are you ready? And, I'm preaching to the choir by telling you that. But all the viewers out there that are listening to this, they don't understand that. So give them some insight.
Yeah, there sure is a lot going on, and it seems to be more and more nowadays as, us at CBS particularly, I can only speak for us, is you're trying to bring more and more technologies to the broadcast to entertain the viewer even more. So the skill that you really need to be good at is you need to be able to speak and listen at the same time. And that's the part that can be quite tricky. Is you may be getting some kind of direction from the producer telling you, as you just touched on, where we're going next, or we're about to go to commercial or something like that. But you're also listening to somebody else on the team, or you're listening to the player caddy conversation, and you're going to need to react off of that as well. So multitasking is really a pretty helpful skill, and what I see out of the best. I've been fortunate to sit next to Jim Nance a bunch so far this year, and it's fascinating how he's able to do 3 and 4 things at once and still do them well. He can gather information. He can listen to his researcher, Tom Spencer. He can pay attention to the broadcast and then fill in when the time is right. And so that's really the thing you need to be very good at. The other thing that a lot of people may not get a feel for is it is completely different to what you and I are doing right now on this podcast. On a podcast, we're going to have 45 minutes, an hour to chat through different things, weave in and out of different directions. When you're calling golf, you've got 2 or 3 seconds, and you've got a couple options. You can either fall back to a cliche, which is one of my pet peeves. You can keep quiet, which is sometimes a really good option, and just listen to the sounds that are out there. Or you can have something additive to put in there that could describe something or give the people something to look for. So for me, it's much the same way as when I was playing. I'm uber prepared. I do a lot of research. I have a lot of people helping me gather more and more research. And then at that moment, it just becomes, okay, can I remember the right little nugget at the right time that could really hit home when a player is about to hit a shot or preparing to hit a shot. And that's the beauty of it.
Well, one of the things you described there that Jim Nance does so well, and you do as well. You got multitasking going on, maybe 3 or 4 different things happening, but it looks like you're in control of the one you're doing. And if we can talk about commentating all we want to, but the truth is, if people know how difficult that is to multitask like that, but to produce one look to where you look great doing it, and it looks like you're right on point with what's going on right there, even though other things are going on in your ear. Well, you do a great job at it.
Yeah, thanks so much. We try our best. We're very, very proud of the product that we try to put out there week in, week out on CBS. And I got to tell you, and you obviously know, having been on and around the tour for many years, but for people who haven't had the opportunity to go to PGA Tour events or see the TV compound, like, it is a city in and of itself, right at the golf course, with hundreds of people that are working around the clock to put these shows on TV. And so there are countless men and women behind the camera that really do help make us look good and help make our jobs a lot easier.
Well, I don't really want to say too much about this, but I've watched a little bit of the LIV telecast. They have a long ways to go. It's pretty elementary, and y'all have hundreds, and they probably have 10. I don't know how many they have, but it looks like they're operating with too few of people as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, to be honest with you, haven't watched much, so I'm not going to comment on that.
Well, I didn't figure you were going to comment on it, but I'm free to comment on it. So,
Trevor, I got a question. What is your how is your preparation going to be different for the Masters versus maybe a different PGA Tour event? Are you going to approach that differently, or do you approach each event you're covering the same?
Jamie, I think it's the same. You go out there, and there's a few different pots that you're looking at of gathering information. Number one is the venue and the golf course. So how much can you get to know the golf course, the ins and outs, where players may slip up, where there's areas for them to really let their skills shine and pick up some shots. So you pay a lot of attention to that. And, fortunately for me, all these courses on tour, particularly Augusta National, I've played at many times. So I have some experience there that I can fall back on. And then you have to go to the players themselves. What kind of form have they been in? Who's in the field? Now at the Masters, it's not finalized yet. We've still got a week left of qualifying. And I guess the player who wins Valero Texas Open can also get in if they aren't in already. And so the players, once we know the final field, then you start to figure out these little nuggets. What are the storylines coming in? What is their form like coming in? And, that'll be a little different this year. Hal just mentioned Liv. All these players are going to be coming together for the first time. A number of the players on their tour haven't played all that much this year. They've only played a couple of events out there. So it can be hard to try and gather information to see exactly how they're playing. But that's the one area that you look at. Then you camp out on and around the driving range, media center area, and you just start to gather little nuggets. Let's take Rory McIlroy, for instance. He's going to be one of the main storylines going into the tournament, trying to become the sixth man to win the Grand Slam, which is, one of the most elite lists in all of sports. So it's going to be a massive storyline at a course that we feel his game is tailor-made for. It's much like Ernie Els back in the day. We feel like he should be winning that tournament multiple times. Right now, some storylines with Rory are he's been struggling, or saying that he's struggling to find a driver that he really feels comfortable with. So I'll be paying attention to that. I'll be down on the range. Does he have the club reps there trying to help him fit into something? Does he have multiple heads that he's trying? Is he considering switching shafts to be able to get the launch and spin ratio that he's looking for? Little things like that you can pick up with all of those players, whether it be, let's call it 80 to 95, the final field will be. Can you gather these little things and then, like I touched on earlier, find the right moment in the broadcast to bring that up? Let's say I've been watching Rory with this new driver. This is all hypothetical, but, I noticed out of the 15 drivers he hit, half of them went left of where he was aimed. And we come out onto the broadcast and we go to Rory and he's on the second tee. And I can be, if the time is right and I have enough before he pulls that club back. Watched Rory on the range this morning, seemed to have a left miss, and you cannot miss it left on this tee shot on 2. Hits the shot, either hits it left, and I go, that was pretty much what I saw on the range, is something that he's going to have to fight here for the remainder of this round before he can get this fixed. Or he pipes one down the middle, and I'm like, oh, awesome. He found a little something, he made the adjustment, and now he's got an iron into the green, and he, in all likelihood, is going to have an eagle look. So, that's sort of the ebbs and flows of it, and how I go about preparing for the week. And then I have somebody, or really we have a research team at CBS, and we have a group chat. And this research team will just be pumping out little nuggets and things that they're seeing and stats that they're seeing. And if you find it pertinent, or if you like that kind of thing, then it's there available for you. You just try and find the right ebbs and flows. For me as lead analyst, what I'm figuring out is it's very important for me to be glued to what is happening on the screen, rather than be in the computer searching for stats or on my phone looking for nuggets, because it's much more important that I pay attention to, wow, why did for the first 5 holes Jordan Spieth look at the ball on all of his putts from 3 feet, and now all of a sudden on the 6th hole he's looking at the hole? What are the patterns that are happening? Stuff like that. Oh, that guy's foot slipped on his downswing. So for me, it's much more important to be paying attention to the screen, really being observant as to everything that's going on. And then in the commercial breaks is pretty much when I'll grab some information from the research team and just have it in the back of my mind in case I see something interesting that it pertains to.
So, Trevor, when you're at Augusta commentating, will you take a moment to reflect and draw on memories? And I mean, you've got great memories there. You know, you won the tournament, so I'm sure there's some time for reflection, isn't there?
Yeah, there will be for sure, Hal. I always get there quite early. In fact, I'm actually going up this weekend to play the course with my son and to get a look at the new 13th tee and just get a feel for how the course is playing a couple of weeks before the tournament. But then I'll go up again the Saturday before, and I'll be there throughout the week. I'll play the course the Sunday before the tournament, and then start to pay attention to what the players and caddies are having to say during the week to try and gather all that information. But with that comes a lot of extra time before we kick the broadcasts off on Thursday, as I'm moving around the facility there to reflect. And it hits me on a number of different levels. Obviously, the obvious ones are as the golfer, and growing up in South Africa and watching the Masters on TV with the time change, past midnight, and watching all of my heroes play this course that just seemed so impeccable on TV, and then getting the opportunity to go and play there and then eventually win there. It's been such an incredible period of time for me as the golfer, all the things that I've experienced at Augusta National. But also on top of that, how I've watched my family grow and experience the Masters over the years. When I won, my son was 18 months old, and now he's going there as a 16-year-old. So the memories, and my daughter wasn't even born, and now she's going there as a 12-year-old. So the memories of our family and watching my kids grow, and every time they go to Augusta, learn new things about it and appreciate it more and enjoy it more. It's been such a massive part of our family dynamic and the thread that is the tapestry of our family. So there is a ton of reminiscing going on. And for me this year, there's going to be an extra layer even. Calling the action from Butler Cabin with Jim Nance. This will be my first time doing it from Butler Cabin. The last couple of years I was down behind the 15th green in a tower there. So now I get to experience calling the Masters from Butler Cabin, which will be a massive thrill. So a lot of great memories, and there will be numerous times throughout the week. I haven't even mentioned the Champions Dinner, for instance. There'll be numerous times throughout the week where I sit back and go, wow, what an amazing blessing this tournament and this club has been to my life.
So you brought it up, so I'm going to ask the question. Champions Dinner, what's it going to be like with some of the live players that are also Masters winners? First time they've kind of gathered like that. What do you think that atmosphere is going to be like in there?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure is the answer that I can give you right now. It's going to be very interesting with the layers of things that have been taking place over the last couple of years. The thing that I keep falling back on for me, and that I speak to a number of the other champions about when we do talk about this, is at the end of the day, this is Scotty Scheffler's evening, and and this is the night that we're all supposed to be coming together to honor him and honor his achievement of winning the Masters. And so that's what's at the top of my mind. You know, I like to go to that dinner. This is going to be my 15th one, and I look forward to it for many reasons. But it's always great to go there and be a part of something special, the camaraderie with all the other champions, catching up with a number of guys that you don't see all that much because they're not out and about on the tour all the time anymore. I'm talking about, you know, the older champions like Gray Floyd and Tom Watson. You know, I only see those guys once or twice a year. And so that's an awesome opportunity for me to catch up with guys that were my heroes when I was growing up. Right. And so that's always great. And then to honor the champion and to see how that victory has changed their lives over the last 12 months and hear them speak about that. So, you know, that's how I'm going into it, is I want to make sure that Scottie Scheffler is the main priority, and that's what everybody is talking about.
Well, probably going to be different for you than it is some of the live players, because, you know, they're the defectors, so to speak, and they're coming back into that environment. So they may be a little bit uncomfortable. I don't know whether they will or not. And I'm not really looking for an answer out of you in that regard. I was curious how you would feel. You mentioned Scottie Scheffler. He's playing unbelievable right now. You know, is he one of the best chippers you've ever seen in your life in pitch ball?
Wow, isn't that the truth, Hal? You know, I actually said on the broadcast a couple of weeks ago, he and Jordan Spieth, they're able to use the whole wedge so well, the bottom of the wedge so well. They use the bounce, they use the leading edge, they move the trajectory up and down, they control the spin so well. It really is a treat to be able to watch the two of them. And Scheffler, man, even though he's coming in there as the defending champion, and so rarely have we seen people repeat. I may be wrong here, but I'm wanting to say there's only 3: Faldo, Nicklaus, and Woods. You know, don't shout at me if I get that wrong. But it's so rare. But I feel like he absolutely is the favorite coming in because he's playing such tremendous golf. He's so sharp. You look at how these designated events have panned out on the PGA Tour, where these top players are out there beating each other up every time they tee it up, going up. You know, it's like that old saying, iron sharpens iron. That is exactly what we're seeing out with these designated events. And he just seems to always be in there. And he's won a couple times already. And he comes in with such confidence. And when you look at the other two guys that have been going back and forth with the world number one, Rory has seemed a little off the last couple of weeks. Like I touched on earlier, seems to be a bit uncomfortable with the driver, which is his biggest weapon. And Rahm had such a brilliant start to the season, but also in his last couple of events, the form just seemed to have tailed off. Maybe those two guys will be able to find something leading into the Masters. But shucks, you'd be hard-pressed not to say that Scheffler is the absolute favorite going into this one.
Trevor, I want to touch again, go back to when you won the Masters in 2008. And me and Hal talked a lot about this when Hal won the PGA in 83, that he had to really overcome or really dig deep and show some mental strength to think. Hal, I remember you saying you had to finish for like the pars in the last 4 holes to win that title. Trevor, for your Masters, I remember you had that shot in 16 that went in the water. 17, your approach shot just came up short in the bunker. And then 18, your ball finished in a divot on the fairway. So it felt like the golfing gods were throwing everything at you. So can you give a little insight to our viewers on how deep you had to dig and your mental strength to get over the line there? If you not get over the line, but like close it out and win. And did you have any like mental tricks that you would use when you were playing to try and keep focused and get the job done?
Yeah, Jamie. So the trick for me, particularly that day, was I wasn't paying any attention to to the leaderboards. And that was how I kept my focus. Going into that weekend in 2008, we had a big storm come through. And so we had a long delay on the Saturday as that front moved through. And then there was a lot of wind right behind that. So we had gusts up to 35 miles an hour on the Sunday. And that golf course is, it's tough enough at the best of times. And the areas where you have to hit your approach shots into are so small that, you throw a 35 mile an hour wind in there with that. And it is just all you can handle, or all you would ever need to give you absolute fits. So I had made the decision the night before, going into the final round with a 2-shot lead, to stick to the strategy that had been working well throughout the week and not pay attention to the leaderboard and just play my game and then assess, right toward the end what was going on. And when I'll back up just before 16 as I get to the rest of your question. And the 15th hole was playing straight back into that coolish breeze on the Sunday. And so I couldn't get up in 2. I laid up down to the front left corner of the layup area. I've always enjoyed that layup much better. You get a flatter lie down there. And then I hit quite a nice wedge to about 10 feet behind the hole. And that was one of the last shots between that and 16 where there was going to be water in play. And as I was walking across the Saracen Bridge, I got a standing ovation from the patrons, 2 huge stands there on either side of 15 green. And I was like, wow, that's a little bit weird. Ordinarily the patrons will only give a standing ovation to somebody that's won that tournament. And so I noticed that, and I could feel that, okay, this is headed in the right direction here. So missed the putt, but made the par, go to 16, and now that wind is heading hard off of the left. And I was between a smooth 7 and a full 8. And I decided I would go with the smooth 7, aim it straight at the flag, and let that wind just push it to the middle of the green. And if I got lucky, catch the ridge and feed it down there. And because I was taking some off of it, the ball it took off a little bit lower than what I really wanted, and too low of a flight for that breeze to actually catch it. Like, I hit it too solid for the trajectory. And it was just the whole way, it was like, oh no, this thing's not going to budge. It's just, I've pulled it on that line just a touch, and it's flighted down. And the ball kicked down into the water, and literally it felt like all the blood had just dropped from my body. I was like, oh my word, what have you? I actually said to myself, what have you done? And my caddy was great, Neil Wallace. We worked together for 9 years, so we had been together for a long time. And he just picked up the bag and was like, okay, it's fine. Let's just drop down here and hit it on the green. So dropped down on the front of the tee, hit a 9-iron onto the green, 2-putted for double, and picked my ball out of the hole. And as I was walking to the 17th tee, I got a standing ovation again. And I was like, this is really weird. Like, I've just made a double and these people are cheering for me. And so I must still be in a good spot. So immediately I recalibrated, and I was like, okay, well, let's just find a way to par these next 2 holes. So I forgot about everything else. And then 17, I hit a pretty good tee shot, and it just crept into the second cut. And I was quite a long way down there. I only had a wedge in. And I hit it really well on a beautiful line, hole location cut just over the bunker. And it must have come out a little bit softer than normal because of the first cut, or second cut, the longer grass. Pitched up and spun back down into the bunker. And fortunately for me, the ball was just a little on the upslope still. So, without the pressure of trying to win a major championship, it's really an up and down that we would expect to get 7, 8, 9 times out of 10. It's pretty basic. But every part of your body is shaking and trembling, and your mind is racing. So it makes it a little bit more difficult. But I got it out there to about 3.5, 4 feet, made the putt. And then as I was walking down off the back of the 17th green, there's like an alleyway of people you've got to go through to get to the tee that's been pushed back now over the last few years. And so I was really close to the patrons. And, there were people like reaching out and patting me on the back and saying, well done, you've got this. So I could feel that I had the lead. And so for me, once again, the thought process was, okay, just, this is a very, very narrow tee shot nowadays. Probably the most narrow tee shot at Augusta National. Just get this thing in the fairway. You can make a 4 or a 5 from there. We can figure this out. But nothing else in the world matters right now other than this tee shot. I don't care how you do it. Just put this ball in the fairway. And somehow, some way, I hit one of my best tee shots of the week. Just took off like a laser beam with about a 3-yard fade right down the middle. And, then I got down there and I saw the ball in the divot. And once again, my caddy was great. Because I was like, you got to be kidding me. What's going on here? And immediately he said, well, you knew this wasn't going to be easy winning a major championship. So, just find a way to get it done. You got perfect number for an 8-iron. And I had like mid 150s. You got a little uphill, had a little help out of the left in the breeze. And so he was exactly right. Let rip on an 8-iron, put it back in your stance a little bit to increase the angle of attack. And this thing came out like it was on a tee. I mean, it was like a perfect ball flight for an 8-iron. I can't even explain it, even though it was in quite a big divot. And, once I knew that the ball was down on that lower level and in perfect position, I said to him, okay, I know we got the lead, but what's the story here? And he was like, you 3 ahead. It's all over. And so that was the process of those last 4 holes. And so it was feeling the energy of the crowd and trying to understand what they were telling me and how they were responding to me, but also constantly refocusing back down into the present, like I did on that 18th tee, where it was just like, all the work you've done, all the stuff you've worked on over your swing over the years, all those little things. Has it helped you to get to this point? Absolutely. But does any of that matter right now? Hell no. You have to find a way to point this club face down the fairway and hit the middle of the club face. So it's really cool, even 15 years later on, thinking about those moments. It absolutely was a thrill for me.
One of the things you said there that I couldn't agree with you more. Nothing else in the world matters at that point. And that's how you basically bring your focus in. And I think having worked as hard as you had to be there to have that opportunity, and I'm not just talking about, the month prior to that, I'm talking about from the time you took up golf and those guys that you talked about being your heroes were important to you, and you dreamed about being one of them one day. You were there. The requirement is the present, and you were able to do it, and that's why you were able to win. So, you see that a lot where guys can't draw back into the present moment, and their world is big.
Yeah.
You've seen that out there, and they're thinking about everything, and that's where they get lost. You didn't.
It's quite interesting. You say that. A lot of times I think back to, I've heard Jack Nicklaus say this many times, is he said when he would get under pressure or when he was coming down the stretch to win a tournament, which had happened many, many times, as we all know, there would always be a moment during that back 9, that final 9 on Sunday, where he would take a step back and look around for a few seconds and go and see all the fans and feel the energy and be like, man, this is fun. This is exactly what I want. This is how I want it. This is the position I want to be in. And he would acknowledge the situation and acknowledge the fact that this is why you practice. This is why you put the work in. I'm having a blast with this. And then that would help him focus and zone back into, okay, well, now I need to hit this 3-iron on the green, or now I need to make 2 birdies in the next 4 if I want to win, something like that. And I've always thought that that's quite a cool tip, to be able to separate yourself for 20 or 30 seconds and use that as a vehicle to get you back into the zone, back into your sweet spot mentally, to where you can perform your best. It's kind of a cool idea or tool that he used when he was playing.
Well, it takes a special guy to be able to do that, to be able to do what you just said, and then to be able to come back down to the moment and be in the present. If somebody sees the bigness of the moment, they get lost in the bigness of the moment. And, the greats don't. They come back.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think one of the reasons, why they're great and why they're able to have greatness over such a long period of time is, and I'm talking about all sports, the research that I've done, the books I've read about it, is these athletes figure out what works for them. What is their secret? What are the things that help them get to those spots? And then they wear those things out. And so they have such a keen awareness of what makes them tick in those moments. And then over the years, they have so much success with it that their belief in those things just grows and grows and grows. When you speak to a Tom Watson or a Jack Nicklaus or a Gary Player about stuff like this, like, they are absolute in what you need to do, because that's what they did and it worked for them.
Right.
And so they know themselves so well over years and years of being battle hardened and figuring out what works. It's quite cool.
Jamie, you got anything you want to ask?
I was going to bring up before we finish here, the recent announcement with the USGA and the RNA about the ball. I've read a lot of opinions, and a lot of people are riled up about this, like fired up on certainly Twitter, which they normally are on Twitter. But I'm just interested in your thoughts about the whole situation, Trevor.
It's a hornet's nest out there, Jamie.
Yeah.
I've posed a few questions on Twitter over the weekend, and wow, the spectrum of responses that I've received, it's vast. A lot of people are wound up, like you say. Just speaking to a few of the members at our club yesterday, I went down to hit a few balls, and some people came by, and I asked them all the question about the ball, what they think. Just getting that take on it is interesting, and you see the vastness of where people stand on this. From, hey, the game is in a good spot right now, why are we trying to do something like this? To people saying, well, I'm concerned about the old course, I'm concerned about Marion, I'm concerned about why Augusta National has to move back the 13th tee by 40 yards. So I do think it should be a rollback. All the way to people saying, as long as they don't touch my equipment, amateur golfers, that is, I'm a senior golfer. I already play the forward tees. If they roll this back anymore, there's nowhere for me to go. I'll have to be teeing off on the front of the fairway. And so the ideas and thoughts and feelings behind this, it's it's vast. I'm not 100% sure that I've fully baked out exactly where I am on it. Do I enjoy watching Rory McIlroy and players like that hit a 340, 350-yard drive? Yeah, I do. When you see it in person, it's incredibly impressive. I've been playing golf since I was 5 years old, and so I've watched a lot of golf balls being hit. When you go to one of these guys that have elite speed like that and you watch them hit, you have to train your eyes to move so much faster than they ever have before if you want to follow this ball. And it's impressive. I understand the work ethic and the talent in conjunction with the golf clubs and the technology that it takes to be able to hit a shot like that. Do I at times wish that certain golf courses or certain holes on certain golf courses weren't as easy now because of the technology? Sure. So it's a very, very tricky spot to be, I think. For me, I don't know if I'm old school or a traditionalist, or maybe my opinion is wrong, but I am not totally for bifurcation. I think there's something cool about, everybody being able to have access to the same equipment. Now, when I said that on social media, I got a lot of blowback on that too. Oh, well, you don't play the same equipment as us. And I'm like, sure, our equipment is dialed in. We're fortunate to have club companies that can dial every club of ours in. But although it's expensive and time consuming, nowadays, amateur golfers have that at their disposal as well. I mean, you can go and get fitted and dial your driver in and dial your wedges in and go on launch monitors and see what gives you the best spin ratios and all that kind of stuff. So, that technology is available out there for everyday golfers if they want it. And I just enjoy the fact that, we could all play by the same rules, play with similar equipment and same equipment. I just don't really want to get to a spot where it's bifurcated, where the pros have to play certain stuff and the amateurs have to play certain stuff. So one of the half-baked ideas that I threw out there was, how about if they rolled the ball back for everybody, and then, we found a way for people to play up a set or two of tees. And that would probably help for 75% of the golfers. But like the example I gave earlier, for some of the older golfers who are already playing the most forward tee, it would create a problem. But really, where we haven't gotten clarity from the USGA and the R&A yet is this 5% that they're talking about. A couple of things that I want to know. First of all, is 5% enough? If you're going to have one bite at the apple and you're really going to do this and you're going to rip the Band-Aid off and you're going to change the equipment that pros are able to play with, is 5% enough? Or in 5 or 10 years, are you going to be complaining again that these guys are hitting the ball too far? So make sure if you're going to do it, you're going to do it properly. And secondly, if Rory McIlroy at in the mid 120s club head speed, which is extremely fast, is going to lose 5% on a tee shot, how is the club golfer with a 70 mile an hour swing speed? Are they still going to lose 5%? Is it on like a linear scale, or is there some type of curve to this where the person who's driving at 180 yards, are they actually going to see 5%, or is it only going to be down to 1% for them with this golf ball and with the technology they're going to use to design this golf ball? So it's very hard to have an opinion that's set in stone when I feel like so many questions are unanswered. There's a part of me also, as much as what I love the R&A and the USGA, and I appreciate how they volunteer their time to be shepherds of the sport and to run great championships. I do also, there's a part of me that needs them to acknowledge that, they helped us get to this position we're in right now. There's been professionals from Hal's era and between and before that have spoken about concerns of the ball starting to go too far. And nothing was done for a long period of time. So I think it would be healthy for us to acknowledge that as well.
Well, Trevor, the truth is it's not going to affect the higher handicap player nearly as much as it's going to affect the good player. And, you know, without swing speed, it's going to be negligible as to how much it's going to affect a game. I've been one of these guys that have proposed, let's make the ball spin more. The game's more exciting when the ball spins a little more, curves a little more, makes us all have to think a little bit more. And, you know, there's not a harder shot in the world when the ball spun than to lay up on 15 and you lay up back where you put a little bit of spin at Augusta and you got that wind in your face. There's no harder shot in the world than that right there. Ball spinning.
Yeah.
But you got a 2-foot window that you can put that ball in. And if you don't hit it far enough, it's coming back in the water.
Yeah.
And if you too far, then you don't really want to be where it's fixing to be.
Yeah.
That's the shot I'm talking about. So,
Yeah.
you know, the ball spins a little bit more. I think it's more exciting. I don't know. I think the USGA and RNA have been afraid of litigation for a long time because the manufacturers want to make a lot of money off of, and, you know, Karsten scared everybody to death a long time ago.
Sure.
So, you know, they were sitting on their hands doing nothing for a long time. And, you know, I'm going to say something that's kind of controversial. That's kind of where we're at in the world right now, where, you know, the policemen are afraid because we got them so afraid to react. Now policemen don't even want to become a policeman anymore. So what's it going to be if we have nobody saying, that's wrong, you can't do that?
Yeah. Yeah. It is a very interesting spot, you know, for these governing bodies. And like I said, you know, they volunteer their time for the most part and really do try and shepherd our sport in the right direction. But, you know, I think we just need to make sure and get all the answers before we know exactly where we want to go. And if this rule, from what I understand so far, is only supposed to kick in 2026, you know, I don't think if they decide to do it, I don't get the feeling that 5% is enough, because they're you know, these kids that are coming out of college now, they train specifically for speed. And, you know, in another 2-3 years time, they're going to have already accounted for this 5%. And so the guys are still going to be hitting it this far. And so we're still going to be complaining that, you know, the third hole at the old course is not playing long enough, or you know, why is the fourth hole not as demanding as what it used to be in the 80s and 90s, or, you know, the holes at Shinnecock or holes at Marion aren't quite as intimidating as they used to be. So, you know, I just want to make sure that we don't do this 2 or 3 times. Let's not do it now 5% and do it again in 10 years, another 5 and another 5. You know, that becomes a bit of a disaster for the manufacturers that we also need to be in partnership, with at the end of the day. You know, they're also a part of this equation, and we want them to do well so that all of us can do well in whatever other aspect of the golfing landscape we are. So how can we find a way to do this to be able to keep everybody somewhat happy? Some will be, you know, more happy than others. But how can we find the path of least resistance to be able to come to some sort of resolution? That's what I'm interested in.
Well, I hope that they do something that affects the consumer in a positive way, because he's been he's taken the brunt of this, to be honest with you. He's had to pay extra at his club because they're restoring it and lengthening it and all that sort of stuff. He's buying every new driver that comes out, and hopeful that he's going to get 5 more yards, and finds that he never does. You know, it's cost the consumer no telling how much.
Yeah.
Go through this process. And most of this is just helpful for the highly skilled player. And I wish that something could be more positive for the consumer. So,
Yeah.
and one of the reasons why I say this is you mentioned to me the other day when I texted you to get you on that you can't believe how poorly you play now.
That's right.
And I made mention back to you that it's only going to get worse. Well, I'm in that worst part.
Man.
It's not getting any better. I'm going the other way. Can't hit it nearly as far. And, I never was a guy that could hit it. I could hit it 300 yards downwind, but I couldn't hit it 300 yards at will. And, what I'm watching now is not a game that I know much about. So, and that hurts because, I dug it out of the dirt. I didn't have a TrackMan. I didn't have video that I could see every frame. There's a lot of us old guys that say, man, you're not working hard enough like we did,
Yeah. I mean, I totally understand what you're saying there. I was in the generation that was kind of caught in between. So with, the way I view it, and, correct me if I'm wrong, but the way I view your generation was the way you guys used to train and practice was accuracy and distance control was always number one. How can I own my ball flight? How can I land this ball in the, within a yard or two of where I'm needing? And accuracy was so important. And then as the technologies really started to boom during my era, a lot of us had to learn a new way to swing, because it went from guys in your era generally hitting down on the ball with the equipment and persimmon and the start of metal wood drivers. So all of a sudden during my era, now players learning, wow, the balls aren't spinning as much. The driver heads are getting bigger. If we need to maximize this, we've got to start swinging up on it. So the technique slightly changed. And now all of a sudden we've got to this era where all of these guys that we're watching on tour right now, they were juniors and in college when the new equipment came out. And so they honed their skill. They acquired their skill and trained for this new equipment, which is now shifted from your era of accuracy number one to distance is number one for them. And they try to learn distance first. How can this driver swing be like a max rep in the gym? It's just an all-out explosion. And so it's about training speed first. And then once they get the speed above 120 club speed, above 180 ball speed, then they're like, okay, is this ball going on the planet? If not, okay, let me figure out a way to dial this back to where I can keep it on the hole that I'm playing. And so it's a total different mindset of the tour player nowadays. It really is incredible.
It sure is. That's great to finish on right there, Trevor. It's been a pleasure having you. I don't have anything to add to it. That's why I'm ending it. I just got to move up a couple of tees.
There you go.
Still enjoy the game and still remind myself that at one time I could play pretty good.
Absolutely. Well, I tell you what, I wish I had that buttercut that you used to have when you were playing. That's what I'm looking for right now.
Well, I hope you get it. And one of the things that I'm hoping for is that it's a great experience being in Butler Cabin this year from the tower on the 15th hole. Tell Jim I said hello. He's a great guy. I know he's fun to work with. So
thanks, Hal. Thanks. I can't wait for the Masters. It's going to be such a thrill. And I had a great time chatting with you guys. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Trevor. And have a great time at the Masters this year in Butler Cabin.
Thanks.
Thanks, Trevor.